Hello, this is your section 1.5, looking at numbers 1 through 9. In this first problem, we need to know what a linear pair is. And this is any two angles whose sum, when we add them together, you get 180 degrees. You could also call these supplements. You'll see this called a lot, as well as a straight angle. And so here you can see highlighted in blue, we have this right here, RUP. And we have SUR, and we could see that they cause an angle here to be straight, or they create a linear pair, or they add up to 180 degrees. And number 2, we're looking for evidence that these two angles are congruent to each other. We see that they're highlighted here, but we also see that nothing is showing here. We need these things like arcs to be here to let us know that these things are congruent to each other. So we either have to be told angles are congruent, or they should have those symbols there. So that's why these are not. And 3, we see this again, linear pair, letting us know that these angles must add to be 180 degrees. So you can see it in our equation here. We add these together, it equals 180. We solve to find our value of n, and then we plug that n in to the given angles. So I plug these back in. That lets me know that the measure of angle EFG is 75, and this one lets me know that the measure of GFH is 105. And number 4, we see a bisector, an angle bisector, and what that does is it splits a larger angle into two equal parts, and you can see that illustrated here. We also see the arcs that we mentioned earlier, also to let us know that these things are equal to each other. And so that lets us know that we set up our equation here to find x. Once we find x, we plug it back in. And since we know that they're congruent to each other, we should get the same answer here. Here, once again, we see bisects again. So it's always easier if we could see this. So I drew this out over here. Also used the arcs here to let us know that these are congruent, which allows us to set up the equation here. We solve for x. We plug that value in to both of these angles to find out that they are indeed congruent to each other. And 6, we're looking at supplements. And if we look at what's written in black here, this is how you're going to start all of these types of problems. So 6 and 7 when you're finding complements and supplements. So supplement lets us know that we're going to have x, we're going to have the supplement, plus we're going to have what happens to that angle. And when we add them together, it should equal 180 degrees. What in blue here is usually what is forgotten. Or x is always forgotten. One of these is usually forgotten, and students just solve and use that. So here we add these together, so we get 6x, and we divide, we get 30. That lets us know the measure of the supplement. And in order to find the other angle, we can do one of two things. We could subtract from 180 to get 150, or we could plug it into here. So 5 times 30 will give us 150 for the other angle. 7 is going to have a similar process here. What you see in black is going to be the staple for this, or the skeleton. And then what you see in red is here is what is given to us. What are we doing to that measure of the angle? And so it is 6 greater than that, meaning we're adding 6 to that angle. So usually this x is forgotten. And we just, students will write x plus 6 equals 90. Or 180 if they make that mistake. So you'll end up with 2x plus 6, and then we solve to find that x is 42. And just like the last one, we could subtract from 90 to get 48, or you could plug it in to what I have here in red. So 42 plus 6 is 48. Here, we're given this figure with lots of different indicators and symbols in here. So these smaller symbols I have highlighted in yellow. This is let us know that these angles are congruent to each other. And then the given angle in green, you see is 64. And then this symbol here, this box, this square that we have at the vertex lets us know that this is a right angle and lets us know that it is 90 degrees. We also, from earlier problems, we've seen talks of straight angles. So if we look at FCD as an angle, this is 180 degrees. So in order to find this missing part here, angle BCD, which is here, BCD is here in this yellow area. In order to find that, we add what we know. So we know this is 90. We know this is 64, which gives us 154. And then since we know this unknown here has to be a part of that and has to add up to 180, if we subtract from 180, we get 26 for this small area here. And in our last problem, We have a linear pair, very similar to some problems earlier. This lets us know to add these to equal 180. And then we solve to find n. Once we find our value for n, we simply plug those in. And this allows us to find our two separate angle measures.